The stars burned cold and distant above the fleet of the Veyari Union. Once these stars had been symbols of hope and promise. They had been the guides of travelers, the lights of explorers, the silent witnesses of countless victories. Now they felt like eyes watching the slow death of an entire people. The Veyari Union had fought bravely against the Zorath Dominion. For centuries, the Union had believed in unity, peace, and progress. They built cities that floated above oceans, gardens that stretched across entire planets, and ships that carried them far into the galaxy. Their alliance was strong. Dozens of species stood together under one banner. It had seemed impossible that anyone could break them, but the Zorath had come. The Zorath were not seekers of peace or dreamers of knowledge. They were conquerors. Their fleets were endless, their weapons terrifying, and their minds cold with ambition. They desired only control, and they crushed anything that stood in their path. The war between the Union and the Dominion had lasted more than 30 years. At first, the Union believed it could hold the line. The combined fleets of their member species had launched counterattacks, retaken lost worlds, and even destroyed several Zorath warships. For a time, hope had lived. But the Zorath were patient, and their numbers seemed without end. One by one, Union fleets were defeated. One by one, Union worlds fell. On the bridge of the flagship Radiant Dawn, Admiral Serac stood in silence as the holomap flickered before him. Red markers glowed across the galaxy. Each one was a system lost to the Zorath. Each one was a scar on the Union's soul. Only a few clusters of blue remained, symbols of the last free worlds. "Admiral," said Kale, his communications officer. Her voice was low, heavy with exhaustion. "We have received word from the Defense Council. They have surrendered the homeworld of the Aralith." Serac closed his eyes. The Aralith were proud warriors, their cities carved into the mountains of their world. They had sworn never to kneel. Yet even they had fallen. "And the Zorath?" Serac asked. "They celebrate," Kale whispered. "Our defeat is their triumph. Reports say they broadcast their victory across all channels. They want every survivor to hear." Serac turned back to the holomap. The Zorath had spread their banners across half the galaxy. Their victory seemed complete, but still the Union lived. Barely a few fleets had escaped destruction. A few colonies still resisted, and Serac, though weary, refused to give the order to surrender. He looked at the faces of his crew. They were tired, broken, and afraid. Yet even in their eyes he saw something else, a spark. It was small, but it was there. "We are not finished," Serac said, his voice steady. "As long as one ship flies the Union banner, as long as one heart beats with defiance, we are not finished." His words brought no cheer, but they gave his people strength to keep standing. Still, Serac knew the truth. The Union could not win this war alone. Their fleets were shattered, their supply lines gone, and their leaders divided. Unless something changed, the Zorath would soon finish what they had started. Later, in the council chamber aboard the Radiant Dawn, the surviving commanders gathered. Holograms shimmered around the room, each showing the face of a distant ally. Some were reptilian, some insectoid, some avian, others humanoid. Each wore the same expression of despair. "We cannot continue," one said. "Our fleets are too few. The Zorath hunt us without pause," said another. "Wherever we flee, they follow. Soon we will have no safe harbor left. Perhaps it is time to consider surrender." The chamber fell into heavy silence. The word hung in the air like poison. Serac slammed his hand on the table. "No, surrender is death. You have seen what the Zorath do to the conquered. They erase cultures, enslave populations, and strip worlds bare. To surrender is not mercy. It is extinction." The council members looked away. They knew he spoke the truth, but truth did not ease their despair. Then one of the younger commanders, a scholar named Vera, spoke with hesitation. "There may be another path. Before the fall of the Aralith, our long-range listening post detected something unusual." "A signal." "A signal?" Serac asked. "Yes," Vera said. "From a world outside our Union, a world we have never contacted before. It lies in a quiet sector, far from the great powers of the galaxy. The signal was simple yet strong. It came from a species called humans. Humans." The word felt strange on Serac's tongue. Vera nodded. "They are not part of our alliance. We know little about them. Records show they are newcomers to the stars. Their fleets are small, their territory limited. Yet their signal carried a confidence, a will. I cannot explain it, but I felt it." Another commander scoffed. We are to place our hopes in an unknown species? Children playing with starships? Perhaps, Vera said softly, but perhaps not. We have no other choice, the chamber filled with murmurs. Some laughed at the idea. Others looked thoughtful. Serac remained silent. Finally he spoke. Send the message. The council turned to him in surprise. Admiral, one began. Send the message, Serac repeated. His eyes burned with quiet fire. If these humans can hear us, if they are willing to stand, then we will not turn them away. The Union was built on trust. Perhaps our last chance will come from beyond our borders. And so the order was given. Across the shattered remnants of the Union, great antennas turned and ancient transmitters roared to life. A message of desperation, of unity, of survival was sent into the void. It was a call not only for help but for hope. Days passed. Silence answered. The stars gave no reply. On the radiant dawn, Serac stood often by the observation window, staring into the endless dark. He wondered if he had been a fool. Then at last the reply came. It was simple. It was short. But when the words were read aloud, the chamber filled with a strange silence deeper than before. The message said, "We received your call. We are humans. We will help." The commanders stared at one another. Some whispered in disbelief. Some laughed nervously. Others wept. For the first time in many years, Serac felt something rise in his chest. Not fear, not despair. Something else. Hope, and far away, in a small blue world circling a yellow star, humanity prepared to enter the war. The council chamber aboard the Radiant Dawn was filled with silence after the human reply was read. It was such a simple message, yet it carried a weight that none of the Veyari had expected. We received your call. We are humans. We will help. The words echoed in the minds of the surviving commanders. Could it be true? Could a world that no one had heard of before truly stand against the endless might of the Zorath Dominion? Admiral Serac stood at the center of the chamber, his tall frame lit by the faint glow of the holomap. He studied the stars, the red lines of enemy advance, and the few blue symbols that remained of the Union. His eyes lingered on one small dot far at the edge of the map, a world marked as Terra, humanity's home. They answered, Serac said at last, his voice calm yet carrying a strange strength. They heard us, but what can they do? One commander asked. The aliens' feathers ruffled in unease. Their fleets are untested. Their numbers are few. They are nothing compared to the Dominion, another scoffed. Perhaps this is a trick. Perhaps the Zorath send false signals to mock us. Would it not be cruelly fitting for them to give us false hope? Vera, the young scholar who had first spoken of the humans, shook her head. No, the signal is genuine. The style, the code, the design, it is not Zorath. It is something new. Something different. These humans are real, Serac turned to her. Tell us what you know. Who are they? What history do they carry? Vera brought up files that flickered across the holomap. Not much. They are newcomers to space. Barely a century ago, they first left their homeworld. Their ships are small. Their colonies are few. Yet records suggest they advanced quickly, learning technology at a speed that surprised even our observers. Where other species took thousands of years to spread among the stars, the humans did it in only a few generations. The chamber filled with murmurs. Some were impressed, others doubtful. Serac listened carefully. He did not ignore their doubts, but he also did not dismiss their hope. We cannot ignore any chance, he said firmly. If the humans are willing, we must meet them. The decision was made. A message was sent, arranging a meeting point at the edge of Union space. The fleet waited, hearts filled with both fear and curiosity. Days passed. Then finally they arrived. The first human ships emerged from the void with flashes of light. They were not large compared to the mighty dreadnoughts of the Union, but there was something sharp about their design. Black metal hulls, edges angled like blades, engines glowing with a steady burn. They looked lean, built not for beauty but for purpose. The Veyari commanders gathered in the observation deck, watching the newcomers. So small, one muttered. Can such ships truly face the Dominion? Another tilted his head. Perhaps their strength lies elsewhere. The human flagship hailed them. On the central screen, the image of a human appeared. A tall figure in a dark uniform with sharp eyes that carried both calmness and fire. This is Captain Elias Kor of the United Earth Fleet, the human said. His voice was steady with no sign of hesitation. We received your message. We stand ready to listen and to fight." For a moment, no one in the chamber spoke. The Veyari had expected hesitation, fear, or bargaining, but this human spoke as if war against the Dominion was not an impossible dream, but a path already chosen. Admiral Sirach stepped forward. "I am Sirach of the Veyari Union. We thank you for answering our call. But I must be honest, Captain Kor. The Dominion has crushed fleets greater than yours. They have destroyed worlds older than your entire civilization. To face them is to walk into fire." Kor did not look away. "Then we will walk into fire. Humanity has always done so. Tell us what you need." The chamber fell silent again. For the first time in many years, the Union leaders felt something new in their hearts. It was not only hope, it was surprise. The days that followed were filled with planning. The humans shared their knowledge, showing weapons and strategies that the Union had never considered. The Veyari relied on strong defenses, on long lines of supply, on calculated battles. But the humans thought differently. "War is not about standing still," Captain Kor explained. "It is about movement. It is about making the enemy believe you are weak, then striking where they least expect. It is about taking risks they do not dare to take." The Union commanders frowned. Such ideas seemed reckless. But when the humans showed simulations of their tactics, the results were clear. Smaller fleets defeating larger ones, weak ships striking at the heart of stronger enemies. "Unthinkable," one commander whispered. "And yet, it works." Admiral Sirach studied the humans carefully. They were bold, almost too bold. Yet there was a confidence in their eyes that was hard to ignore. "Perhaps this is what we need," Sirach thought to himself. The first joint mission was soon planned. A Dominion supply outpost had been built in a captured Union system. It was heavily guarded, but the humans insisted it could be destroyed. "If we strike their supplies, their fleets will slow," Kor said. "They are strong, but even strong armies grow weak without food and fuel." The Union had never dared to strike so deep before. But they agreed. The mission began. Union ships formed the distraction, attacking the edges of the system. The Dominion forces rushed to defend. But while they were drawn away, the human strike group slipped into the shadows of the system's asteroids. Their ships moved like hunters, silent and unseen. Then at the perfect moment they struck. Missiles and plasma fire rained upon the supply base. Explosions lit the void. The Dominion forces turned in confusion, rushing back to defend, but it was too late. The humans had already finished their task. From the bridge of the Radiant Dawn, Sirach watched in awe as the Dominion station collapsed into burning fragments. "They did it," Vera whispered. The Union fleet retreated, the mission a success. For the first time in decades, the Dominion had suffered a blow they had not expected. The news spread quickly. Across the remaining Union worlds, survivors heard of the strike. For so long they had lived only with fear. Now for the first time they heard of victory. A small one, yes, but a victory nonetheless. The Zorath too heard of it. And they did not laugh. In their great halls, the Dominion leaders growled in anger. They had thought the war finished. They had already celebrated. Yet now a new name was whispered among their soldiers. Humans. Back aboard the Radiant Dawn, Sirach stood beside Captain Kor as they looked at the stars. "You struck a fire into the heart of the enemy," Sirach said. "But now you have their attention. They will come for you." Kor nodded.
"Let them."
"Humanity has faced impossible odds before. We will face them again, and this time we will not stand alone." Sirach studied the human's face. In those eyes he saw something he had not seen even among his own people for many years. A refusal to break. A will unbent. For the first time since the war had begun, Admiral Sirach allowed himself to believe the Union might yet survive. And far beyond, the Dominion began to prepare, no longer celebrating their victory. For a new enemy had entered the war, an enemy they did not yet understand, an enemy called humanity. The stars shifted slowly across the vast darkness as the fleets of the Union and the humans trained together. In the great void, silence ruled, but aboard the ships there was constant motion. Crews hurried through corridors, systems hummed with power, and captains debated strategies. The humans had brought something new to the war, something the Union had never seen before. It was not larger fleets, nor more powerful weapons, nor even numbers. It was the way they thought. Admiral Sirach stood on the command deck of the Radiant Dawn, watching as human vessels practiced maneuvers beside Veyari cruisers. The humans moved with daring speed, flying close to asteroids, diving through debris, turning sharply in ways that made Union officers nervous. To the Union, such flying was reckless. To the humans, it was normal. They act as if the void itself is a battlefield to play upon, murmured Kale, the communications officer. Her eyes followed a human frigate weaving dangerously near a drifting asteroid. One mistake and they will be crushed. Perhaps, Sirach said quietly. But notice how they never make that mistake. The frigate slipped past the rock with only meters to spare, its engines burning bright, before darting away as though mocking the danger. The Union crews watching the display could only stare in surprise. Later, in the war room, the Union commanders gathered with the human officers. Holographic stars flickered before them, displaying enemy movements. Captain Elias Core of Earth stood tall, pointing to a glowing red line that marked Dominion supply routes. "Here," he said firmly. "This is where we strike next." One Union commander shook his head. His scales glittered under the light. "Impossible. The Dominion protects that route with 3 fleets. To go there is suicide. Not if we move like this." Core shifted the map, showing human ships darting around enemy positions. "We do not attack the fleets directly. We distract them. We cut their line here where they are weakest. They will not expect it. They believe they are safe," the Union commanders muttered in doubt. "You play with fire," another warned. "If you are wrong, we lose everything." Core met their eyes without fear. "If we never take risks, then we are already lost. Humanity did not survive by standing still. We survived by daring to step forward when others hesitated." Admiral Sirach studied the human carefully. There was boldness in his voice, but also certainty. He remembered the first mission, the strike on the supply outpost. Against all doubt, the humans had succeeded. At last, Sirach nodded. "We will try your way, Captain." The plan began within days. Union cruisers launched a false attack, drawing Dominion forces toward a distant asteroid field. Meanwhile, the humans prepared their true strike. Sirach watched from his flagship as the small human task force vanished into the void, their ships slipping into shadows like hunters stalking prey. Hours passed. Silence filled the Union fleet. Then the reports came. Explosions on the Dominion line, fires burning across their transports, human missiles tearing through supply ships. The enemy, caught unprepared, scrambled to respond. Cheers broke out across the Union decks. For the first time in decades, the mighty Dominion was not simply slowed, they were humiliated. "By the stars," Kale whispered. "They actually did it again." Sirach allowed himself a small smile. The humans had struck a blow that echoed across the galaxy, but victory always carries a price. Days later, the Dominion responded with fury. Great fleets of Zorath warships began hunting the humans. Wherever a human signal was found, the enemy came like a storm. On one battlefield, a human frigate was surrounded by 3 Dominion destroyers. The Union rushed to help, but before they could arrive, the human ship performed a daring maneuver. It turned sharply, diving straight toward a gas giant skimming the burning clouds of its upper atmosphere. The Dominion ships followed, confident they had trapped their prey, but the humans had planned it. At the last moment, the frigate launched charges into the swirling storms of the planet. The explosions ignited the gases, sending waves of fire through the sky. The Dominion ships were caught in the chaos, torn apart by the raging storm. The human frigate escaped, scarred but alive. Union officers who heard the report shook their heads in disbelief. "No one should have survived that," they muttered. Yet the humans had. In time, more Union crews began training with their human allies. They learned to think differently, to take chances, to trust not only numbers but courage. It was not easy. Many Union officers struggled to break old habits, but they watched the humans fight and they could not deny the results. One evening, Sirach visited the human flagship. He walked through narrow corridors filled with crew members moving quickly, their faces focused yet calm. The ship was smaller than his own, but it felt alive with energy. Captain Core greeted him on the bridge. Together they looked out at the stars. "You fight as if defeat does not exist," Sirach said. Core gave a small smile. "It does exist. We have tasted it many times in our history. But we also know this. Defeat is never the end unless you accept it. Humanity never accepts it." Sirach studied him for a long moment. "That is what makes you dangerous." "Perhaps," Core said. "But I believe it is what makes us human." The Dominion soon realized the truth. The Union had not been broken. Somehow new fire had been lit among them, and at the center of that fire stood humanity. The Dominion commanders gathered in their shadowed halls. Their voices hissed with anger. "These newcomers dare strike at us?" one growled. "They are nothing. Their worlds are few, their fleets small. Yet they wound us?" "They are bold," another admitted. "Too bold. They fight as though they do not fear death. This is not the Union way. This is something else." The highest commander of the Dominion, cloaked in darkness, spoke at last. "Then we will show them true fear. We will break them before they spread further. Prepare the fleet. Humanity will learn the price of defiance." Back aboard the Radiant Dawn, Serac felt the shift in the stars. Reports came in of massive Dominion fleets moving, gathering, preparing. "They come for us," Kyle said grimly. "Yes," Serac replied. His gaze turned to the human ships still flying strong beside the Union fleet. "They come not only for us now, they come for humanity." Vera, the young scholar, looked troubled. "Do you think the humans are ready?" "They are still new to the stars. Their numbers are too few." Serac's voice was steady. "I do not know if they are ready, but I know they will fight. And sometimes that is enough." The next battle was not far away. A Dominion armada, vast and terrible, moved toward the border where human and Union ships trained together. On the eve of the clash, Serac stood once more beside Captain Kor. The human captain looked at the stars, calm and focused. "They are stronger than us," Serac said. "They outnumber us. They have crushed fleets greater than ours. Do you still believe we can stand?" Kor turned his sharp eyes toward him. "Admiral, we are humans. We have always been outnumbered. We have always been weaker. But we are still here. That is what matters. Tomorrow we will show them why." Serac felt a strange fire rise in his chest. For the first time in many years, he believed, and so, as the Dominion armada approached like a storm, the humans and the Union prepared to face them together. The galaxy watched in silence. The war was no longer the same. It was about to become something far greater. The void of space was silent, but tension filled the hearts of every sailor aboard the Union and human ships. The Dominion armada had arrived in full force, a vast wave of steel and fire stretching across the horizon. Their fleets were larger, faster, and more powerful than anything the Union had ever faced. Admiral Serac stood on the bridge of the Radiant Dawn, his hands gripping the railing. His eyes followed the red blips on the holomap. The Dominion ships advancing in tight formation, engines glowing with deadly intent. "This is it," Kyle said softly, standing beside him. "There is no turning back," Serac nodded. "We fight or we die, but remember this, we are not alone." Below, Captain Elias Kor and his crew prepared their human fleet. Their ships were smaller, fewer in number, but every officer moved with focus and calm determination. The humans had a plan, one that relied not on overwhelming force but on ingenuity, speed, and precision. Kor studied the approaching enemy. "They expect us to run," he said. "They believe fear will make us flee. They are wrong." A young human officer glanced nervously at him. "Sir, there are hundreds of Dominion ships. We'll be cut to pieces," Kor smiled faintly. "Then we strike fast and we strike smart. If we hesitate, we lose. If we act, we may survive." The battle began with a thunderous roar. Union cruisers engaged the front lines, trying to slow the Dominion advance. Cannons flared, shields hummed, and explosions lit the void. The humans moved like shadows. Small groups darted between asteroids, weaving around wreckage and debris, striking Dominion supply lines and flanks. They appeared where the enemy least expected them, then vanished before retaliation could come. Serac watched in awe as human ships performed daring maneuvers. One frigate dove directly into a cluster of Dominion fighters, appearing to risk destruction, only to release a barrage of guided missiles that shattered several enemy vessels. The crew had anticipated the attack, setting a trap the Dominion could not foresee. "By the stars," whispered Kale. "They're incredible." Serac said nothing. He only watched, his mind racing with strategies inspired by the humans. But even the humans were not invincible. Midway through the battle, a squadron of Dominion dreadnoughts broke through Union defenses and targeted a human frigate. Outnumbered 3-1, the small vessel fought desperately, dodging plasma blasts and missile strikes. The crew held their positions, following Kor's orders with precision. "Do not panic. Keep moving. Trust each other." Explosions rocked the ship, shaking it violently. Sparks flew across the bridge. Systems flickered. One of the younger officers screamed as alarms blared. Kor's voice cut through the chaos. "Steady, use the debris field. Lead them into the gas cloud." With perfect timing, the frigate dove into a nearby gas giant's atmosphere, its engines burning bright against the storm. The pursuing dreadnoughts followed blindly, and at Kor's command, the human ship released charges into the swirling gases. Massive explosions erupted, sending shockwaves that destroyed 2 of the dreadnoughts and forced the 3rd to retreat. The Union crews watched through holoscreens in disbelief. Even seasoned officers could not believe the audacity of the human maneuver. "They gamble with death," one muttered. "And yet, they survive." Sirach nodded slowly. "It is not luck. It is determination. And strategy. A combination no enemy expects." Despite the humans' successes, the Dominion forces were relentless. They adapted quickly, surrounding the combined Union-human fleet, cutting off supply lines and pressing the attack from multiple directions. Losses began to mount. Several Union cruisers were destroyed, sending waves of panic through the remaining forces. Planets previously secured by Union colonies reported attacks, and reinforcements were delayed. Sirach's heart sank as he watched the damage reports. Even the humans struggled to hold their ground. Some of their smaller vessels were hit and casualties mounted. The Dominion's numbers seemed endless. "This may be the end," whispered Vera. Her voice trembled as she watched the holomap fill with red markers of Dominion control. "No," Sirach said firmly. "Not yet. We still have a chance. We cannot give up." He turned to Kor, who stood calmly on his own bridge. "Captain, the Dominion is pressing harder. How do we hold them?" Kor's eyes narrowed. "We create a trap. They are confident, arrogant, and slow to see new threats. If we draw them into the nebula rift, they will be disoriented. Their formation will break, and we can strike at their core." Sirach hesitated. "It is risky. Too risky. If it fails, we are lost." Kor's voice was steady. "Sometimes the only way to win is to risk everything. That is what humans do. That is what we have always done." The next day, the fleets moved toward the nebula rift, a massive field of swirling gases and electrical storms. The Dominion pursued, believing the Union and humans were retreating. Inside the rift, visibility was low, sensors struggled, and every movement was uncertain. The human fleet darted through the clouds, weaving a complex pattern that lured the Dominion deep into the heart of the storm. Then, at the perfect moment, the trap was sprung. Hidden turrets, mines, and ambush points detonated, striking the unsuspecting Dominion vessels. Explosions lit the nebula in red and gold, twisting colors dancing across the void. Despite the plan's brilliance, the battle was costly. Many Union and human ships were destroyed. Fires raged across the remaining vessels. Alarms screamed, and crews fought desperately to save their comrades. From the bridge of the Radiant Dawn, Sirach gritted his teeth. "We are losing too many," he said. "We cannot hold them much longer." Kor's voice came through the comms, calm as ever. "Focus on the targets we can destroy. Every Dominion ship we remove is a victory. And remember this, every moment they spend fighting us, they cannot conquer another world." The battle dragged on for hours. The Dominion, enraged and confused, could not coordinate effectively within the rift. The humans, small and agile, struck repeatedly, each attack calculated and precise. Still, the Union suffered. Several of Sirach's closest allies were destroyed, their worlds left vulnerable. The cost of this fight weighed heavily on him. He knew that if the Dominion broke through, it would mean the end of the Union. Yet through the chaos, one thing became clear. Humanity refused to yield. Each strike they made, each risk they took, inspired the surviving Union fleets to continue the fight. Even the most despairing crews found courage in the humans' determination. For the first time in decades, Sirach felt a shift in the tides of the war. Not yet victory, but hope. As the nebula battle reached its climax, Kor delivered a bold maneuver. Leading a small fleet into the heart of the Dominion formation, they struck directly at the enemy command vessel. Explosions rocked the core of the fleet. Communications failed. Ships spun out of control. Collisions ignited chain reactions. The Dominion's advance stalled. Panic spread among their forces. The combined Union-human fleet, though battered, held the line. Sirach allowed himself a breath of relief. They are shaken, he said softly. Not defeated, but shaken. Vera looked at him, eyes wide. We survived. Because of them. Because of humans, Sirach nodded. Yes, humanity has shown the galaxy something no one expected. Even the Dominion can be outwitted, but we are not safe yet. This battle is only the beginning. As night fell across distant planets, the Dominion fleets regrouped, their anger and confusion growing. For the first time, they realized that the humans were unlike any enemy they had faced. They did not fight like the Union. They did not fear death. They struck with cunning, daring, and unyielding will. The galaxy had changed. A new force had entered the war. A force that would challenge everything the Dominion had believed about strength, courage, and survival. And though the cost had been high, humanity's presence had given the Union something priceless. Hope. Hope that perhaps, against all odds, the war could still be won, but the Dominion would not forget. They would return stronger. And when they did, the humans and the Union would face their darkest hour yet. The galaxy held its breath. Across countless systems, stars blinked silently as if watching the final chapter of a great war unfold. The Dominion armada had returned, larger and more terrifying than before. Their ships formed a wall of fire and steel that stretched across the void, a wave designed to crush everything in its path. Admiral Sirach stood on the bridge of the Radiant Dawn, his gaze fixed on the endless red markers of the approaching fleet. His hands gripped the railing tightly, knuckles white. Beside him, Vera and Kale whispered anxiously to one another, but Sirach said nothing. He could feel the weight of history pressing down on him. Every life lost, every world destroyed, it all led to this moment. And yet among the Union fleet a strange calm spread. It was the humans who inspired it. Their ships, though smaller, glimmered with a quiet confidence, engines burning steadily as they positioned themselves with precision. Captain Elias Kor stood on the bridge of the flagship Intrepid, his eyes scanning the Dominion advance with unwavering focus. They think this is the end, Kor said softly. They are wrong. The battle began with a roar that shook the vacuum of space. Cannons flared, plasma beams cut across star systems, and explosions blossomed like violent flowers among the stars. The Dominion, confident in their superior numbers, advanced relentlessly, certain that victory was inevitable. But the humans had a plan unlike any the Dominion had faced before. We strike at the heart of their formation, Kor explained to Sirach. Not the edges, not the supply lines. Their command vessel. If we destroy it, the rest will falter. The Zorath rely on control. Remove it and their arrogance becomes their weakness. Sirach studied him carefully. It is incredibly risky. If they see through your plan, we are all lost. Kor smiled faintly. Then we make sure they do not see it. The human fleet moved with astonishing coordination. Smaller groups darted through debris fields, weaving between asteroids and comet fragments, slipping past Dominion scouts. They struck swiftly, hitting supply lines and flanks, then vanishing before the enemy could respond. Union ships followed their lead, learning to move with the same daring speed. Veari pilots, once cautious and precise, began to trust the humans' instincts. Together, the combined fleet became something greater than the sum of its parts. Unpredictable, agile, and deadly. And the Dominion, unprepared for such tactics, faltered. Hours passed. Battles raged across multiple sectors, each more intense than the last. Dominion dreadnoughts fell to unexpected maneuvers, supply convoys were destroyed, and communications between enemy fleets broke down. The Zorath had never faced an enemy that could turn their strengths against them so efficiently, yet even with their brilliance, the humans suffered losses. Frigates were torn apart, crews lost, and ships burned in the darkness. Sirach felt the sting of each report. The cost of victory was high, and the stakes could not have been greater. Kor, Sirach said finally, your fleet is suffering. We cannot hold them forever. The human captain's eyes remained steady. We do not have to hold them forever. We only have to break them. Once their command is gone, the rest will fall apart. Trust me, Admiral. The moment arrived. The Dominion command vessel, massive and imposing, moved into position, confident it would crush the combined fleet. Its weapons flared, firing at Union and human ships with deadly precision. Kor issued his final orders. Now, the human strike group darted forward, small ships moving like blades slicing through the heart of the enemy. Union ships provided distractions, drawing fire and keeping the bulk of the armada occupied. The strike group reached the command vessel. Missiles, plasma charges, and electronic attacks struck simultaneously. The Dominion flagship shuddered as explosions ripped through its hull, systems failing, engines faltering. Alarms blared, red lights flashing across every deck. The other Dominion ships hesitated, unsure of what had just occurred. Their formation wavered. Confusion spread like wildfire through the enemy ranks. Serac's heart pounded. He had seen bold maneuvers before, but nothing like this. The humans had done the impossible. The battle continued, but the tide had turned. The Dominion fleets, once confident in their victory, now scattered and faltered. Their dreadnoughts collided in the chaos. Supply lines were cut off, and communication breakdowns spread panic. The combined Union-human fleet pressed the advantage, striking hard at disoriented enemies. Every successful attack inspired the Union crews. They had seen their homes burned, their people enslaved, and their fleets shattered. Yet now, hope rose within them like a phoenix. Humanity had shown them that even the mightiest enemy could be challenged. Corps' fleet moved like a shadow, unpredictable and precise, each ship supporting the other. No Dominion formation could anticipate their attacks. With every strike, more Dominion ships were destroyed, and yet the human captain's eyes remained calm. "Keep focused," he reminded his crews. "Do not become overconfident. We finish this together." The climax of the battle came when the remaining Dominion forces attempted a final counterattack. A massive fleet advanced toward the combined Union-human fleet, hoping to crush the attackers before the command vessel was fully destroyed. Corps made his boldest move yet. Leading a small elite human squadron, he split off from the main fleet, drawing the counterattack toward a field of gravitational anomalies. The Dominion, arrogant and unaware, pursued them blindly. Then the trap was sprung. The anomalies disrupted their formation, scattering ships into deadly collisions. Missiles fired from hidden human and Union positions found their targets. The Dominion fleet began to crumble from within. Serac watched the holomap, disbelief and awe flooding him. The humans had turned the enemy's strength against them. What seemed impossible was now happening. By the end of the battle, the Dominion armada was shattered. Ships burned in the darkness, others drifted in silence, systems failing. The once mighty enemy had been broken. Union and human fleets hovered cautiously, watching for any sign of renewed attack. None came. The Dominion retreated, battered and humiliated, leaving the galaxy to witness the power of determination and ingenuity. Serac stepped forward, looking at Captain Corps. "You have done something I never thought possible. You have turned the tide of war." Corps shook his head. "Not I alone. It was the Union as well. We fought together. But humanity, we do not give up. That is our answer." Serac smiled, a rare warmth spreading across his face. For the first time in decades, he felt relief, hope, and pride, not only for his people but for the humans who had risked everything for strangers in need. Across the Union, survivors celebrated cautiously. The war was not over and the galaxy was still dangerous, but for the first time, hope burned brightly. Humanity had proven that courage, willpower, and determination could challenge even the strongest adversary. The Zorath, defeated and retreating, learned a lesson that would echo for generations. Numbers and strength alone do not guarantee victory. The heart, mind, and unyielding spirit of a species could turn the tides, even against impossible odds. Serac looked out at the stars, thinking of the countless lives lost, and yet also of those saved. He had learned something profound. Humanity was not just a newcomer to the stars, they were a force to be reckoned with. A symbol of hope for all who believed in survival against all odds. Corps, standing beside him, spoke softly. If they wanted victory, they should never have let humanity hear the call. Serac nodded. No one could have predicted your way. No one could have imagined your courage. The galaxy will remember today. And far beyond, in the silent expanse of space, stars watched as a new era began. Humanity had answered the call, and the Union, and perhaps all free worlds, would never be the same again. The Dominion would rebuild. They would return. But one truth was now clear to the galaxy. Humanity does not surrender. Humanity does not yield. And humanity could not be stopped. The war had changed. The galaxy had changed. And at the heart of it all stood one undeniable fact. The humans had triumphed.